Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into, well, a question that's as old as time itself, really.
Hmm.
And it feels particularly relevant right now. What do you think is stronger, war or peace?
That's a huge question.
Yeah.
And it's right at the very heart of Leo Tolstoy's masterpiece,
Hmm.
War and Peace.
Right.
So our mission, with this deep dive, is basically to pull out the essential insights from this enormous work,
Huge work. Yeah.
give you a real understanding without you needing to uh, navigate all 1,200 plus pages yourself.
And monumental is definitely the word. It's not just long, it's like a whole universe in there.
Absolutely.
Over 500 characters, massive historical events, philosophy. I mean, some people find it really daunting.
Oh, definitely. It has that reputation. But for others, it's genuinely life-changing.
Yeah. But at its core, it really anchors itself in the lives of, what, 5 aristocratic families in Russia?
That's right. Caught up in the Napoleonic Wars, specifically Napoleon's invasion of Russia back in 1812.
That fateful invasion.
Precisely. And while the title, War and Peace, focuses on that conflict,
It's so much more.
oh, it's way more. It's this sprawling look at, well, the human condition.
Mm-hmm.
Love, family, big philosophical questions, fate versus free will.
Faith, too, right?
Faith, definitely. And just that universal search for your place in the world, especially when everything feels chaotic.
Okay, so to really get a handle on this massive book, we probably need to start with the people, the characters.
Yes, absolutely. They're unforgettable. Let's start with Pierre Bezukhov.
Okay, Pierre.
He's this awkward, really kind-hearted, illegitimate son who suddenly inherits a fortune.
Right, out of nowhere.
And he goes on this incredibly messy, almost wandering journey to find some kind of meaning.
He tries everything, doesn't he? Parties, a terrible marriage.
A disastrous marriage, yeah. And he even gets involved with the Freemasons for a while.
What's compelling about that, about Pierre's whole arc?
Well, Tolstoy uses him to really explore that human searching.
Hmm.
Pierre tries these external things like the Freemasons, which were a big deal then, sort of seeking a moral code,
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, his journey pushes him inward. It kind of mirrors Tolstoy's own spiritual path in a way.
Interesting. Okay, then who's next? Prince Andrei.
Prince Andrei Bolkonsky.
Yeah.
Very different character. He's proud, ambitious, a nobleman, a soldier.
Initially chasing glory, right?
Totally. Obsessed with military glory at first, but then he experiences the brutal reality of war.
And personal tragedy, too.
And deep personal tragedy.
Yeah.
And his whole view of the world just shatters.
What makes his story so powerful, do you think?
Andrei's journey is maybe the emotional core of the novel. He goes from this kind of rigid intellectual pride
Yeah.
to facing suffering and death head on. Tolstoy just masterfully shows how love, loss, the raw experience of war can completely reshape even someone that cynical or brilliant.
It's a real shift from aiming for external success to this intense internal reckoning.
Exactly, a stark internal reckoning. Yeah.
And then, of course, Natasha Rostova.
Ah, Natasha. She starts out so vibrant, so innocent, just bursting with life and passion.
Yeah, she's captivating.
But her journey, it's marked by joy, sure, but also big mistakes, heartbreak, and eventually this really profound sense of forgiveness. It feels incredibly real.
So why do these characters written so long ago still connect with us?
Because Tolstoy makes them so deeply human. He doesn't just tell us about them. He lets us inside their heads, their hearts.
You see their flaws.
Absolutely. They mess up, sometimes catastrophically. They love fiercely. They dream. They fail. They grow.
It's that humanity.
Exactly. Their 19th century aristocratic lives feel universal because their struggles for meaning, for happiness, they echo our own, don't they?
They really do. Okay, let's shift gears to war, part of War and Peace. Because Tolstoy's take is, well, it's not what you might expect.
Not at all. He absolutely does not romanticize it. He spends a lot of time dismantling any idea of glory.
How does he do that?
He shows war as just chaotic, messy, fundamentally absurd even.
Like generals making bad calls.
Yeah, generals making blunders, orders getting lost, or being totally irrelevant to what's actually happening on the ground. Soldiers dying randomly, not in some heroic charge.
Just chaos.
Utter chaos. And he stresses how the suffering hits everyone. Rich, poor, it doesn't discriminate.
And his portrayal of Napoleon is fascinating too, isn't it? He kind of cuts him down to size.
It really does. He strips away that myth of the military genius. Instead, you see Napoleon as, well, kind of small, self-absorbed, driven by pride.
What's the point of showing him like that?
It's central to Tolstoy's whole philosophy of history. He's pushing back against that great man theory, the idea that history is all about leaders and generals.
Right.
Tolstoy believed history is driven by the countless small actions of ordinary people, not the grand plans of supposed geniuses. Napoleon, in his view, was actually more of a pawn of history than its master because of his ego.
So it undermines that whole narrative.
Completely subverts it.
Yeah.
And it highlights the inherent futility and randomness of war.
And the Battle of Borodino seems key here. He doesn't describe it like a chess match.
No, not at all. He throws you right into the middle of it.
Yeah.
The noise, the fear, the confusion. It's visceral, horrifying.
A brutal grind.
A brutal, senseless grind with no clear winner. It just hammers home his point. War isn't heroic, it's just tragic.
You feel it from the ground level with the soldiers?
Exactly. You feel the terror, the randomness. It's a powerful critique of militarism itself.
But the book isn't just war, it's War and Peace. So what about the peace part? What happens after the fighting?
Ah, yes. And this is where I think the real beauty and the deep wisdom of the novel comes through.
The quiet moments.
The quiet moments, yeah. The times of reflection, personal change, simple human connection. That's where Tolstoy finds the real meaning.
Can you give examples? Like with Pierre?
Well, look at Pierre. He eventually finds peace, real contentment, not through his money or status.
Not through the Freemasons.
No, but through simple kindness, a kind of spiritual awakening, this quiet faith he develops.
And Andre?
Andre, before he dies, reaches this incredible moment of spiritual peace, forgiveness. It completely transcends all his earlier ambition.
Wow.
And Natasha, too. She learns from her mistakes, endures heartbreak, and develops this deep emotional strength, this capacity for, like, unconditional love.
So what's the big message there about peace? It's not just troops going home.
Definitely not. For Tolstoy, peace isn't just the absence of war or some political treaty. It's an inner state.
Inside yourself?
Yeah. It's about forgiveness, finding a deeper meaning in life, connecting genuinely with others. It's how people reconcile with suffering, with uncertainty, and find a more resilient sense of self.
The shift from looking outside to finding balance inside.
Precisely. Internal equilibrium.
Okay, so you might be listening and thinking, all right, 19th century Russia, Napoleonic Wars, why should this matter to me today?
It's a fair question, but it matters because the fundamental questions Tolstoy asks are timeless. There are questions, too. Like, what actually makes life meaningful? Can people really fundamentally change? Who shapes history? Is it the great men, the leaders, or is it everyone else? Ordinary people.
That's a big one. Are we maybe too focused today on the big names, the headlines?
And maybe overlooking the power of individual lives, collective small actions. It makes you think.
And that's where it feels so relevant now. I mean, our world is full of conflict, stress, constant change.
Right. And War and Peace somehow reminds you that even when things feel chaotic, unpredictable, there's always potential for growth, for reflection, for hope.
It speaks to resilience.
The resilience of the human spirit, exactly. It's amazing how relevant his insights still feel over 150 years later.
There's a quote you mentioned, one that really captures Tolstoy's philosophy here.
Yes, it's powerful. He writes, "If everyone fought for their own convictions, there would be no war."
What does he mean by that exactly? Fighting for your own convictions.
It's provocative, right? He wasn't saying be selfish. He meant that war often happens because people blindly obey orders or get swept up in national pride or follow leaders without thinking.
I
He
see.
believed if people acted from their own genuine moral compass, their conscience, instead of just following the crowd or seeking false heroism,
Then the whole basis for war would crumble.
the drive for large-scale conflict would just dissolve. It's a deep challenge to the psychology behind war.
And that feels like a message we could really use today. In politics, in our communities.
Even just in our own lives and our own hearts.
Definitely. So, okay, let's try to boil it down. What are the key takeaways from this deep dive into War and Peace?
Well, first, I'd say history isn't just kings and battles. It's woven from the threads of ordinary lives. Messy, complex, human lives caught up in big events.
Oh, wait, that's one.
Second, war destroys. But real peace, lasting peace, it doesn't just happen when the fighting stops. It starts inside us.
With forgiveness, understanding.
Forgiveness, understanding, finding that inner calm.
Yeah. And
That ultimately, things like love, forgiveness, faith, they have this quiet strength that's way more powerful and lasting than, fleeting power or empty pride.
those are pretty profound lessons.
They really are. And look, the book is huge. It takes commitment.
No doubt about it. It requires patience.
It does. But if you give it that time, War and Peace honestly has the potential to change how you see the world
And maybe yourself too.
and yourself.
Yeah.
It's really an invitation to understand what it means to be human on a much deeper level.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening.
Yeah, just something to ponder as you go about your day. Think about how actively cultivating a bit more inner peace, maybe practicing forgiveness in your own daily life, your interactions.
Mm-hmm.
How might that, even in small ways, ripple outwards? Could it contribute to a bigger sense of peace in the world around you? It really echoes Tolstoy's message, doesn't it?
It certainly does. A powerful thought to end on.